Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you are joining us from on this Productivity Zed360, brought to you by the Ministry of Labor and Social Security, National Productivity Development Department. You are very welcome to this 16th edition of the Productivity Zed360. Today is a very special day, and we are privileged to be joined by Mr. Humphrey Monde, who is the president of the United Federation of Employers in Zambia, UFEZ, who will be presenting to us on best practices for improving labor productivity in Zambia. So you are very welcome to join us. To those of you that have not yet joined us, please do that. If you have not subscribed the notification button on your YouTube channel, please do that so that you get notification every time we go live. This is a monthly program that we bring to you every Tuesday of the first week in the month. And the past months, we've tried to bring various speakers speaking on various aspects of productivity and also from different perspectives in the sectors of our economy. We have touched issues relating to the public service, to green economy, to micro, small, and medium enterprise, to the youth, among others. It has been an awesome journey, and as we get to the end of the year, we are actually very happy that you've been part of this growth in terms of promoting productivity. So today's discussion is centered around labor productivity. You are aware from statistics that Zambia's labor productivity stands low even on the global level. Looking at the statistics that we have, Zambia's labor productivity is at 4.55 international dollars per hour of work. So meaning that individuals in Zambia contribute to less than 100 kwacha in terms of the value in the hour of work that they are given. That is too low to drive national economy. The President of the Republic of Zambia, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, has attached so much value and importance to the issue of productivity, where he's always been talking about the quality, the cost, as well as the timely delivery of products and services. And all this is driven by a human being. It's driven by labor. From the Ministry of Labor and Social Security, we've been trying hard to promote productivity through decent work promotion, labor inspections, ensuring that wages are fair so that people at the workplace may use all their efforts to ensure higher productivity of enterprises. We've been promoting social security, occupational safety and health, amongst other things that we can talk about. All these are meant to ensure that labor applies itself. So in today's discussion, I will invite Mr. Humphrey Monde to give his presentation on what he has prepared for us. But before he does that, just a brief of our guest so that you can appreciate his background and his experience in dealing with the issue under discussion this morning. Mr. Humphrey Monde is a seasoned labor specialist consultant with extensive expertise in labor management and human resource management. With a robust background in human resource, business administration, civil society coordination, and managing a higher learning institution. He has his vast experience spans multiple facets of the labor management industry, enabling him to provide comprehensive guidance on the Zambian labor laws and strategic planning. As a trusted advisor, Mr. Monde is dedicated to optimizing healthcare outcomes and driving innovation in the coordination of NGOs and CEOs involved in health. He holds a bachelor's degree in human resource management from the Zambian Open University and postgraduate diploma. He is also the president of the United Federation of Employers in Zambia, UFEZ. It's a privilege and honor to welcome Mr. Monde on this show. Good morning, Mr. Monde, and a very warm welcome to the Productivity Zed360.
Thank you, Yvonne. Good morning, and good morning, viewers and listeners across the globe.
Thank you very much. So if you have any questions and comments, our dear listeners and viewers, those who are joining us on YouTube, on Facebook, please, you can type your comment, your question on the chat, and after the presentation, we'll be able to respond to your questions and comments. So today it's not my show, it is the show of Mr. Monde. And so it is my honor and privilege to invite him on the stage as I take a backstage and listen carefully.
Thank you. It's a privilege, honor to be invited to be part of this Productivity Zed360 expert talk on best practices for improving labor productivity, employer perspective. I have a presentation which I want to share with you in a short while. I don't know whether, Yvonne, you're able to share a screen. Yvonne?
Yes, I will be able to show
it
just about now.
She's here. Okay. Madam Yvonne, are we good to go? Moderator, are we safe?
My internet is quite slow, but it will be coming on soon. There it is, Mr. President. Please go ahead. Apologies.
No problem. So as we begin, just allow me to have a little background or just an introduction of to productivity. Labor productivity refers to an amount of output per labor hour or worker within a given period. So as employers, we have the key components that we want to share with you, the best practices for improving labor productivity, which we want to share with the team so that we'll be able to see and engage ourselves into these good vices. First, we can go to the next slide, ma'am. Yeah, so when you look at best practices for improving labor productivity from an employer's perspective, what we are saying here, improving labor productivity is a critical goal for employers seeking to enhance efficiency, reduce costs, and increase profitability. Here are several best practices that can be implemented, which we want to highlight to the team. There are quite a number of them. Number one, we're saying we need to invest in employee training and development. Under this component, we're talking about providing ongoing training and development opportunities is essential for improving employee skills and knowledge. This is not only enhances individual performance, but also contributes to overall organization productivities. Now, when you look at employers should consider the aspect of skills. Skills assessment is quite important. Regular evaluation of the skills of employees to identify the gaps in the areas for improvement is also very, very important to us. We also have tailored training programs, which are very key in terms of developing training programs that are specific to the needs of the organization and its workforce. We also have a component to do with mentorship. Mentorship opportunities are very, very important and encourage experiences employees to mentor new staff or new employees who are being employed. They must be mentored. They must be able to continue the learning process. So when we have new employees, they have to be nurtured in a way that the zeal, the vision continues, even when others have left. There's a tendency amongst employees that they're not willing to mentor other people. But it's very, very important that immediately you leave your office, there'll be another person who should take leadership from you, who should take the mantle from you. So for us, mentorship is very, very key, and we'll continue to do that part. Next slide, Mama. Moderator, we can go to the next slide. Okay, so we have the issue to do now with the issue to do with positive work environment. You know, when you talk of the work environment should be something that is appeasing. When employees are coming for work, they must be able to have a positive environment in terms of work. And the morale should be there. Morale actually will encourage them to be motivated to even do more, even go an extra mile in them executing their duties. So we're talking about the motivation aspect. There must be morale in the productivity aspect. So we encourage employers to create such environment where employees are able to have an open discussion, open communication, establish channels of feedback where employees feel safe in sharing their ideas and concerns. There are companies and institutions where employees have no say, but I want to put it on record that for any company to thrive in relation to productivity aspect, there must be serious engagement with the employees. Employees have to buy into the vision and also recognizing the achievements that employees have done. That's why in many instances, every year we have a Labor Day awards where we give awards to the employees who have done well in that particular year. So there are different prizes that are given to workers. So we recognize this achievement. We implement recognition of programs that celebrate both individuals and the team accomplishment. Promoting work-life balance is also very, very important. We need to offer flexible working arrangements such as remote work options or flexible hours to help employees manage their personal, professional lives effectively. There are companies where people work from 8 to 17. When you ask the employees, what have you achieved in this particular day? You'd find that there's totally nothing. People are just sitting in the offices doing nothing. So here we're talking about productivity. So we need to have a work-life balance, which gives great options for workers to make specific arrangement in terms of hours of work. It doesn't mean you have to be there the whole entire day. You have achieved nothing. So we need to have flexible hours, which will allow employees actually to be more productive and be able to deliver their work on time. Next slide, Mama. The other part, where we are now, we are moving with technology. Things have evolved, things are changing. In the past, before COVID, where the serious challenges were used to, even those in the learning and the training institutions, they were used to teach students physical learning. But with technology, due to COVID, we learned that there is more to do to the aspect of technology. So technology is very, very important. Institutions of higher learning now, they have gone into online learning. Students can learn anywhere at any given time using the technology. So leveraging technology can streamline processes and reduce manual tasks and enhance productivity. Employers should focus on automation of tools, implement software solutions that automate repetitive tasks, allowing employees to focus on higher value activities. And the other aspect is to do with collaboration. There must be collaborated platforms. Use tools that facilitate communication and collaboration among team members, especially in remote or hybrid work settings. The issue to do with data analytics is very, very important. Employee data analysts to monitor performance metrics, identify bottlenecks, and make informed decisions based on the real-time data. So what we need to do now is to move with technology. These gadgets that have come, they haven't just come here for fun. We need to utilize them. I've given an aspect of COVID. COVID has taught us lessons that we can even work on the phone. We can even work on a computer. We can work in various places, even in your home. You can still work, and that will still be considered as work. So we need really to think twice about the aspect of using technology. Technology is very, very key for any employer, for any organization to enhance the aspect of productivity. We also have issues to set clear goals and expectations. As an entity, as an employer, as we give our own perspective, here we're saying we need to be establishing clear goals, which helps align employees' efforts with organization objectives. Best practice, which include SMART goals. Ensure that goals are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. Regular performance reviews are also very key. We need to conduct frequent reviews to assess progress towards goals and provide constructive feedback. It's very, very important as we enhance the issues of expectations from also the employees and also the employer's part. And also involvement in goal setting is very, very important. We need to involve employees in the goal setting processes to increase the buy-in and commitment. When employees are involved in the programming, they're involved in the strategic planning, you will see that there will be buy-in to the project. You may have a vision. If the vision is only upheld at a higher level, at the board of directors, senior management, and then employees are not involved, you expect not to achieve your goal. So involvement of employees in goal setting processes will actually increase into the buy-in. So employees will buy into the program and will be able to see that things will move well because everyone will support the operation and the activities of that particular engagement. The other component has to do with the enhanced employee engagement. We need to engage our employees in order for them to be productive. As they are emotionally invested in their work, strategies for enhancing engagement, we should include surveys, feedback mechanism, regular solicit employee feedback through surveys to gauge engagement levels and identify areas of improvement. The other key component is to do with team building. Team building is very, very important. We need to organize events that promote teamwork and strengthen relationship amongst colleagues. Career advancement opportunities, provide clear pathways for career growth within organization to motivate employees. Here we're talking about staff development. In every organization to thrive, to progress, to be productive, we need to enhance the aspect of staff development. If your employees are not able to be trained in further engagement, further opportunities, you expect your institution to go down. So as organizations, as employers, we need to invest in staff development. We need to upgrade our staff in the areas of their operation for your institution or for your organization to thrive. This is a key. We've seen many institutions who just allow their workers to struggle on their own and they upgrade. But for me, I would justify that staff development is a key. We need to enhance these skills. We need to develop our staff in many, many other areas of concern. And this will allow employees to be motivated. The other component, which is key, is to monitor productivity metrics. Employers should regularly track productivity metrics to assess performance levels across different departments or teams. This involves the KPIs, the key performance indicators. Define the KPIs relevant to each role or department to measure effectiveness accurately or accurate. We need to do benchmarking against the industry standards. We need to compare productivity metrics with industry standards to identify areas needing improvement. This is very, very key. Continuous improvement processes. We need to implement processes like Lean or Six Sigma methodologies aimed at reducing waste and improving efficiency. Also very key. By adopting these best practices, employers can create a more productive workforce, capable of meeting organization goals while fostering a supportive workplace culture. So monitor productivity metrics is very, very important as we look at the productivity aspect. We move to the next slide, ma'am. We have other references that we can look at. When you look at Harvard Business Review, it will also be able to give you some of these aspects. These are just some of the references that you can look at in relation to aspect of productivity. Now, the other part that I want to talk about, Madam Yvonne, this has to do with the financial protection. I'm coming back now to the health sector. There's a component to do with health, which is very, very key. In this aspect, I want to put it on record that we request the government to ensure that financial protection to prevent health-related poverty is actually adhered to. What I mean in this aspect is this. Imagine you are sick. Is it possible that you'll be productive? The answer is no, because when you're not in good health, the productivity levels will go down. We have a component to do with social insurance through NEMA. We want to advocate that let's have universal health coverage for all citizens across the country. All citizens should be covered. We're talking of people that are so poor that they can't afford anything. They can't even afford a meal. These are the people that we need to look at in the aspect of productivity. What is it that we can do to make these colleagues to be productive? Many colleagues who are sick, they have to decide whether to go and pay a doctor, they go to a hospital for them to receive medication, or they have to decide they have school fees that have not paid for their daughter, their son. They have aspect to do with rent. They have not paid for rentals. So they will prioritize rentals, education, at the expense of the health aspect. Now, this is very, very crucial, and which we need involvement of all key social players. The government, through His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Zambia, Dr. Hakainde Hichilema, should come in and give solutions and give feedback to the aspect of financial protection for the vulnerable and marginalized groups, the poor, who can't afford any user fees. And this can be supported through CDF. This can be supported through the cash transfers, through Ministry of Community Development, and will enhance that everyone is covered. When it comes to 2030, we want all citizens to be covered under the social health insurance scheme. As it stands now, only few workers are covered under the social health insurance scheme under NIMA. The informal economy, the informal sector is badly hit. And this is why now we need policies. We need governments that will come in to spearhead this process of financial protection. We need budgets. We need to change systems. We need to change policies that will allow people to be healthy. When people are in good health, we expect productivity to be at high levels. For now, I submit, Madam Yvonne. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this very, very good presentation with very key important, very key points that can enhance labor productivity and also allow employers to participate in the same. I took note of quite a number of issues that you have presented. And I would want to just make some follow-up so that we can have more clarity and more discussion around the issues that you have presented. So the points that you presented in terms of investing in employees, as well as issues to do with achievements, awards, technology, among other things, of course, rests on the employers. There have been a lot of discussion regarding the cost of doing business for employers. Is this a welcome move for the employer organizations to invest their resources in this? Do they get a return on this investment from the workforce? Because I can imagine an employer saying, Mr. Monde, you want us to be training. Training is costly. How are we going to manage that? So are there other ways in which employers can ease their burdens in terms of all those response they may have against these best practices that you have mentioned, which I also believe could be very key in enhancing labor productivity?
Thank you, Madam Yvonne. Investing in employee component is very, very key. Training development, staff development is very, very important. And when you look at many employers, they neglect this aspect. But I want to assure you that when you invest in your employees, the employees will work for you. They will be the ones, actually, most when you talk of the groundwork that our staff do, it's not actually the top management. It's actually the underground. I mean, I call them the ground workers, the people at the ground, at the grassroots. They are the ones doing this great job. And these are the ones who should actually be supported. The skills that are imparted in them are very, very, very key, because by the end of the day, whether you are there as an employer, as an MD, as a CEO, when you have the right staff, you've invested in your staff, they'll work for you and they'll give you what you want. But when you don't invest in your staff, you expect productivity to be at low levels. Productivity will go down. You won't even enhance, you won't even see your profits, because by the end of the day, all your workers are demotivated. There's no motivation. I'll tell you one aspect. Where I work at the university, I have employees who would get to work as early as 6, as early as 7. This is a senior manager who's supposed to be at work at 8, but you see them at 7. And when you evaluate the nature of work they're doing, it's about motivation. What is it that you're able to motivate your staff to even come early for work and do your work? You're just seated, you just receive reports, meaning work is moving. So I expect all employers to be very considerate of their employees, even just the general staff, the general workers who come and clean your offices. Make sure that your office is clean. Let's find a way how we can motivate these guys, because they're doing quite a great job. Madam Yvonne, where you're coming from, your home, you have a domestic worker. For you to be here, for you to look good, Mama, your attire that you're putting is because somebody washed your clothes. You're not there. So if this worker who's doing your work at home is not motivated, what do you expect them to do? You expect also productivity levels, even at household level, to go down. So there must be some serious intervention. Even domestic workers can still be imparted with skills. You can motivate them. They must have that morale. Even when they're coming for work, they must have the morale that, hey, I'm going for work. They should even be able to miss work. If they're not at work for 2 days or so, they should be able to miss. I've missed my work. Because the environment there is very conducive. The environment is so user-friendly. And workers, employees envy to be at work all the time. And the productivity levels always shoots up and goes up. And when you check your numbers, you check what your work has been done, you even be shocked, because your employees have bought into what you want to achieve. The buy-in is very, very important. That's what I can say, Mama. Otherwise, all of us, we should ensure that we invest in our employees. We invest in the staff, and you'll be able to see that things will be better with you, and all our businesses will thrive and grow to the higher heights. People who don't invest in their employees, the end result is quite disastrous. And you find that even the business might not even thrive, because you find the same employees will start even stealing from you because there's no motivation. Yeah. Sure.
Yeah, very, very, very important. And another aspect that you mentioned was an aspect of technology. I've seen many companies or many employers watching employees without skills in technology. And before we know it, the employees are not able to do their tasks because they don't have the necessary skills in technology. I read a report from the ILO where a good number of people lost their jobs, not because of COVID and many other calamities or pandemics, but because they couldn't cope with technology. How ready are our Zambian employers in investing in technology for their workforce?
Going forward, I think the employers out there, majority of them now have seen the need of investing in technology. I did indicate that when COVID came, we never saw it. We didn't even see that we can even have an opportunity to work from home. But during the COVID time in 2019, many employers out there have learned the aspect of technology, that technology is very, very, very important. And I can see many universities, many colleges, many training institutions have invested in technology because this is the way to go under the aspect where we are now. If we're hit with another tragedy, I can let's assure you that technology is key. Even now, as we go on, we need to invest in technology. And our people have to be trained in ICT. This should be a key must that all our staff, we train them in technology and the use of technology, because technology is very, very important. When we have this technology component, we can work wherever we are. We can work from home. You can work anywhere because technology enhances all these aspects. So for us, using technology, you are able to analyze your data. You get all your data and you're able to analyze it, and you're able also to monitor the performance in terms of what is going on in terms of your staff. So technology is very, very, very key. So all of us, private sector, even the public sector, we need to invest in technology. I've seen in primary schools, in public, I've also invested in technology. Technology is very, very key. You know, our young generation who are coming up now, our children, even just in our homes, they know how to use these gadgets. Why should it be a problem for us to adapt to this new phenomenon? Me, my boy is 2 years. He's able to use. He can do anything on the phone. He can go on the laptop. He can use anything. They know. So let's move with technology. Technology is very, very important and is a key to us. And as employers, we must also be able to ensure that communication aspect is actually streamlined. Very, very important.
Yes. So that's actually very important, but I see there's still a lot that really needs to be done because in some circles there's been the fear of using technology. You talked about automation. To an employee who is listening, it's an issue of a scare of a job loss. You know, as you automate processes, as you implement these productivity tools, lean management, and all these other things, it's a message to the employee that your position may not be available tomorrow. So, I mean, it's a balance, and also it's the way employers also package the information, retrain their staff to also take up other roles and all these things. So it's and for me it's an issue that you talked about in terms of setting clear goals, being strategic in terms of planning on how you are going to achieve all these, and also mitigate the risks that come around this. Another issue that I want to follow up with you is the issue relating to monitoring productivity matrices. I have been a proponent of outcomes and not outputs. Many of us have actually achieved our KPIs, but with very, very little impact on the work we do and even on the clients who access our services. So, what's your take with this output versus outcomes?
Yeah, this is quite a big challenge. Uh, I'll give an example of look at maybe employees' input and the other aspect of output. You find that what employees are putting in, you find is totally nothing. But by the end of the day, the employer is spending quite huge of resources for these employees who are not productive. And many companies, many employers have been complaining about that aspect. You find what the employer invests in is quite huge. But you find in return also what the employer is getting out of the investment is little nothing. And this component again is coming in because of these aspects. That's why I was talking about the KPIs. Indicator are very, very important for us to ascertain the benchmarking on how we can compare productivity metrics with the industry and identify the areas of that needs improvement. So it's quite a very big thorn. But as we have stated, we need to continue to implement these processes. Very, very key, because in the way things are now, it's a little bit tricky. So we need to adopt these best practices that employers can create more productivity workforce capable of meeting the organization's demand. But in the aspects that we are in, I think it's also it's a mindset. We need to change certain aspects. I know there are employees who don't believe in change management. What they believe in is that if this bird is facing this side, this direction, it cannot face the other side. We have also the personal managers of the old. The personal manager of the old are totally different from the human capital manager right now. The personal managers don't believe in change management, but we have our human resource capital managers. They believe in the change management. So there are such employees in every industry, in every workforce who don't believe in change. Change is quite inevitable, and we can make sure that these things are done in a systematic way.
And that's the question that you have actually on the chat. How can you practically build this culture of continuous mindset change to improve productivity? Somebody's asking.
Yeah, this is why we're saying it's a mindset. We need to change the mindset in terms of how we do business. Things will never be the same. What we learned 10 years ago cannot apply now. That's why even our friends who are in the medical field, things keep on changing. We have new matters coming, new diseases coming on board. It's not about what you learned 10, 15 years ago. Things are evolving. People need to continue engaging themselves into research aspects so that by the end of the day, we're able to meet these demands. So the change aspect, change management is very, very key in every institution, in every organization to thrive. People must be able to embrace change. But I know there are people who don't believe in change. I would call them freedom fighters. Eh? The personal managers of the world, I call them freedom fighters. They don't believe in anything to do with change. They say, no, no, no. This is how we used to do it 20 years ago. What can you tell me now? This cannot change. So such kind of mindset is not good. We need to be able to change things with the way things are moving. And I've talked about there are many diseases that are coming in. COVID-19 was one of them. And all the medical personnel who were there, even when this disease came, it came as a surprise because nobody knew what to do. So we need innovation. We need to do more in research, in able to curb all these vices and all these aspects that comes our way. But if we don't do that, we are not able to change. It will be very difficult. In the past, we used to have, when you are sick, you are diagnosed with malaria. We used to have what? Chloroquine, eh? And we used to see how we suffer those days. You would scratching your body throughout. But as time goes on, new things comes, and we embrace new things. So I just want to urge our team out there is that let's embrace change. Change is very, very key. When there's new innovation, please let's embrace it and see how far we can go.
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually very, very important. The other issue that I think we can discuss a little bit further involves around regular performance reviews of employers. There are various systems that different employers use to review performance, but some of them, I think, I don't know if I can call them outdated, or I don't know. I know for some APAS forms, is it APAS annual appraisal system that we use? Sometimes they don't really speak to what the employee is doing in an institution. How best can we review employee performance from the employer perspective? Do we need performance contracts at all levels? Do we need, I don't know, what could be, of best practice? Because I know the annual
Yeah,
appraisal system we're
my
using.
take on this one, I think,
Yes, please go ahead.
yeah, my take on this one is that I think let's see have performance contracts. That can be. I know we normally have performance reviews that are done after 6 months or after 1 year. We have the annual reviews in terms of performance. But for me, what we need now is to have a performance-based contract. Just like in the health sector now, they have what we call performance-based um, funding. You're only funded based on your performance, how you fared. If your performance is bad that particular year, even your funding will be less. So they look at all those aspects so that there's some form of improvement on a yearly basis. For me, I would say that regular performance reviews are very, very important. We need to continue with that process, which can be done according just to the way your setup is, because every organization has a different aspect on how they do their reviews. But for me, what is important is to involve the employees in the goal setting process to increase the buy-in that I talked about earlier. When employees are involved, it's very easy to work around the issues to do with performance reviews. When employees are not involved, you do your review performance, they don't even know what is going to be there or what is involved. It will be very difficult for them to buy into that aspect. But engage them, let them be part and parcel of that aspect, so that when these reviews are done from time to time, they also receive feedback. Feedback is very, very important. I've seen institutions that will do performance reviews on their staff. They don't give feedback to the workers, and they don't even know what happened. Even how their performance is, they have no feedback at all. So feedback is very, very important. As we do these performance reviews, let's come back and give feedback to our employees. By so doing, we're going to enhance the aspect of productivity.
Yes. Yeah, that's right, and I think that is actually very, very clear. I also do subscribe with your sentiments on financial protection and on the need for everybody else to be covered. It's a very, very interesting conversation, and I'd just like to inform the viewers that we'll be hosting a productivity and job summit, and such as some of the discussions, I think that would be very relevant for us during the summit, so that we can by consensus, have some agreements on how all these categories of people can be supported, various different models or financing mechanisms that we have in the country. So this has been very insightful, Mr. President, and I hope our listeners, I think, have picked up one or two things. And so we are almost coming to the end where we can wrap up this program, because I haven't received any more questions from the audience. But any last remarks that you want to give to the audience, the key takeaway message that they should not forget from this presentation on best practices of enhancing labor productivity from the employer perspective viewer.
Thank you so much. Um, this one is a request. We respectively request the government to introduce laws, budgets, policies, and programs to reduce financial barriers and protect people from financial hardships when accessing health services, prioritizing those in the most marginalized and vulnerable situations. In particular, we ask that government should establish or strengthen national public health insurance schemes that cover health costs for the entire population and guarantee access to affordable core package of essential health services, including quality medicines, prioritize the financial protection needs of people in vulnerable and marginalized situations, protection needs of people in vulnerable and marginalized situations, and minimize or remove user charges for people with low income and chronic conditions. There are people who are sick. Implement social protection interventions like cash transfers, where necessary, cover direct medicine costs, opportunity loss of income loss related to sickness. We also call upon the government to implement the World Health Assembly resolution on social participation for universal health coverage, health and well-being endorsed by all WHO members, which Zambia is also a member of the WHO component. And I must also make sure that please join us on the 12th of December as we start the campaign for universal health coverage for all. We want all citizens to be covered under the social health insurance scheme. I thank you.
Thank you very much. This has been a very, very useful discussion. We will try also in the next coming editions to bring on board various stakeholders that speak to the issues of universal health coverage and financial protection for the vulnerable, because these have an aspect of improving labor productivity, as you stated it. So at this particular point, I would like to thank the presenter, Mr. Humphrey Monde, who is president of the United Federation of Employers in Zambia, UFEZ, who's spent almost 40 minutes trying to give best practices on how we can enhance labor productivity, which is actually very low, below the average SADC labor productivity of 9.18 international dollars per hour of work. So we have a lot to do as employers on how we can enhance this environment. We have been given information that for us to achieve this higher labor productivity, we must invest in employees. We must also attach awards to employees' performance. We must prioritize work-life balance, set very clear goals, leverage on technology, and above all, monitor productivity matrices and do a lot of benchmarking from different employer organizations as well, our employers, on how you can enhance this labor productivity. In as much as we are going to talk about bringing in technology, will still have a human being to drive productivity. And that's why, from the Ministry of Labor point of view, we've been trying by all means to sensitize you, our viewers, and everybody out there on productivity as well as the future of work, which is being affected by climate change, technology advancement, as well as globalization issues. And so we are always trying to bring you to speed through our various presenters that we can all get prepared. It is now up to you as an employee, as a labor or as a worker, to ensure that you avail yourselves for all these opportunities that your employers will bring for you, so that you can contribute to the growth of your organization and eventually to the growth of the nation, our economy, as well as economic development. So we have a lot to do, and it's all of us to do this. So thank you very much for joining us. We will hope to see you again next month around the same time. It's the Tuesday, the first Tuesday of the month, and every month. And next month, we are featuring His Excellency, the Ambassador, Mr. Chibamba Kanyama, all the way from Washington, talking about productivity. Please ensure that you subscribe to this channel and don't miss click on the notification button so that you are notified every time we go live. So thank you very much for being a part of this morning's discussion, and I wish you a productivity week or a productive week, and God bless you. Thank you very much.